into an American Christmas, the Revolution. This is actually a little bit before that. It should be the Colonies. But because we're talking about the 17th century. This is the 1600s. The first colony was started very early in the 17th century. And we did have Christmas, but it's a little bit different than what you might think. So let's have it. An American Christmas, the quickie quiz. Number one, Christmas has always been a national holiday. No, not even close. But, okay, so every week, we're going to fast forward 100 years. Until we get into this century. I know it's only 24 years old, but has it changed much in these 24 years? Maybe. Number two, Christmas trees have always been an American tradition. It's false. All right, Christmas celebration started as a pagan celebration. Yeah, kind of. We'll get into the Yule, the Saturnalia, and the solstice and all that. How about this? The first Christmas gifts were from slaves to their masters. I don't know if I'm going to talk about that a whole lot more, so I'm going to just touch on it now. It was, but it was not as wholesome as what you might think. The very first Christmas gifts were from an employer to an employee. And unfortunately, in this blot in our American history, slave owners would withhold gifts like shoes until Christmas. And it was more of a Santa theology, naughty and nice, and so it was not great. But that is part of the history of Christmas if you go back to the 17th century, unfortunately. All right, Christmas in the 17th century, colonial America did not look like it does today, especially in the New England Puritan areas. Laws were passed banning the celebration of Christmas. In fact, there was a 5-shilling fine for anyone caught observing the holiday. Yikes. Why would Christmas be banned, and who is that cheerful character there in the blue? Wow, you guys are good. That is, in fact, Krampus. Yeah, he's like the negative version of Santa. It's the same Santa theology, only he takes the little kids and eats them if they're bad. Which, again, is not very American. We don't do that. But, yeah, that's part of why, if you're a Puritan and you left the homeland to come to this new country for religious freedom, what are you not doing? We are not doing that. So, I get it. But, number two, let's jump into the Christmas tree. Where did it come from? I'm biased because, yeah, I'm German. Martin Luther, right? Christmas tree? Yeah, well, we're going to go a different direction. This is one legend credited St. Winifred. Who was reputed to have felled a giant oak that had been used for Druidic worship with dedicating, so we're in England, with dedicating the evergreen tree to Christmas. This little tree, he said to have told the crowd of converts who looked on, shall be your holy tree tonight. Let this be called the tree of the Christ child. Gather about it in your own homes. There it will shelter no deeds of blood, but loving kindness and loving gifts and rites of kindness. Now, just from St. Winifred, can you imagine what it used to be? Not great. They would usually kill something and shove it under there, or do it at the tree. It was bad. We're going to get into the Yule a little bit, I think, in the next slide. But let's talk about idolatry before we get there. This is Jeremiah 10. And this is where some people have a hard time with all kinds of anything that has to do with Christmas. So let's see what Jeremiah has to say.
Do not learn the ways of the nations or be terrified by signs in the sky, though the nations are terrified by them. For the customs of the peoples are worthless. They cut a tree out of the forest, and a craftsman shapes it with his chisel. They adorn it with silver and gold. They fasten it with hammer and nails, so it will not totter. Like a scarecrow in a melon patch, their idols cannot speak. They must be carried because they cannot walk. Do not fear them. They can do no harm, nor can they do any good.
Do these verses tell us that a Christmas tree is wrong? If you worship it, yeah. Clearly we have a Christmas tree. I'm not against Christmas trees. But yeah, if you took the Christmas tree, carved it, and bowed down to it, that's a problem. Some people get really excited about verse 4, the adornment with silver and gold. I think you're going a little heavy on the tinsel. That's what we're doing. I I just think that'd be eisegesis, reading stuff into the Bible. Here, God clearly prohibits Christmas trees in the prophet Jeremiah. I'm not buying it. So, I think you can go too far. Do these verses have any application in modern society? If so, what? Idols are bad. Don't worship them. And Paul talks about adornments with gold and how your beauty should come from within. Bling. Is it wrong to get grills, people? I don't think your pastor will ever be seen with golden teeth. I just think we get too wound up. Number 5. What Christian symbolism can you see in the Christmas tree? What good is there? I've been using the Christmas, but I haven't hit the tree per se.
Evergreen.
Evergreen, good. It's evergreen. What else? What's on top? Is that a big deal? The star and the wise one, right? What else? What do you shove under it? Lights, the light of the world. Good, Laura. Yeah. Gifts. The gift was Jesus. God kept his promise and sent Jesus at Christmas. Yeah, the Christmas tree is awesome. And what direction does the Christmas tree point? Up to heaven, huh? All these little things you can, Okay. So Christmas trees, they're okay, right? Mm-hmm. Do you have to have a Christmas tree in your home? No. If you don't, I do not condemn you. In many ways, and true confession, maybe if my whole family's gone, I didn't put a Christmas tree. Because they're kind of a lot of work. So you don't have to. All right. Let's go down this primrose path of paganism. What were some of the pagan traditions around winter and December 25th, Christmas? What are they dragging? Do you know what that is? The Yule log. Yes. Yuletide was December 21st through January 1st. It is a pagan celebration about the how they want the days to grow longer, for the sun to go back. One thing I read said that every crackle of the Yule log was a new pig or cow that would be born that year. It gets weird in a hurry, and so somebody said, could a Christian burn a Yule log? I'm like, okay, tell me why. Why we burn the Yule log? And they're like, well, Jesus is the light of the world. I'm like, okay, but do you understand that if you call it a Yule log, some people say that you can't have ham on Christmas because of the Yule boar. Because that was a pig that they sacrificed for a variety of reasons, and then they ate the pig. I think I can still have ham on Christmas because it's ham, and I like ham. But I get it, how you can go so deep into these traditions, and you say, well, you can't do that because it used to mean that. I'm like, well, it doesn't anymore. And so maybe enjoy your ham, okay? If someone accuses you of eating the Yule boar that you've never heard of, anyway. So, next, this is the other part of the reason why the Puritans didn't like that. Who's the guy in the jester hat? Do you know what he used to be called? If you watch the latest Grinch movie, he was the Lord of... Really? Misrule? Yeah, that was the deal. Where you had one guy go around causing problems during Yuletide. And it was this drunken orgy. You don't need to go into details of what that means. But, yeah, that's what it was. And so I totally get why, if you were a Puritan or a Christian, you would want to distance yourself from these pagan traditions. And I totally get why these missionaries plopped Christianity right on top of it. Guess what we're celebrating? Jesus' birth, people. Way more wholesome than whatever you're doing. So they still observed Christmas in their churches, but it was not a secular holiday for obvious reasons, because that was still going on in the colonies. But they wanted to say, that's not what we're doing. And I get it. I don't think any of us would want to be a part of that either. So, all right, when did giving gifts become a part of Christmas? Well, yeah, let's jump into Isaiah 9 before we comment.
For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever.
The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. What were the first Christmas gifts? Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. I think we do have a little bit of lesson on the wise men, but you could say it was 2 years after Christmas, when Jesus was a toddler. And these 3 guys knocked at the door and said, "Here." And Mary's like, "Oh my word, these angels, they're crazy. Everything that they're saying is true." And they took the gifts and head out to Egypt before the slaughter of the innocents in Bethlehem. But yeah, that's all part of it. That was the first gift. You could say God. Of course, the child is born, just the son is given. God gave the first gift at Christmas. And so it was done. I already touched on what slavery was done, but it was not a big deal. Kids, I'm sorry. No gifts at Christmas if you were in Puritan society in the 17th century. I don't know how to break it to you. I'm not saying you can't give gifts now, but this forlorn look from the children. We're going to fast forward 100 years next week and talk about it in the 18th century. Any questions on colonial Christmas? Please say this prayer with me. During this season of Advent, turn our hearts back to you, Lord. Show us our sin in your holy law. Show us our Savior in the manger. There are no other announcements. May God give you a blessed week.